Hey everybody, I'm Nicole.
I'm Lindsay.
And I'm Sarah, and together we're the co-founders of Whale Tales, a living library of cetacean stories.
And today we have a special guest. Yeah, we do. It is special guest time. I'm just making up songs all over the place.
Amazing. Sit back and enjoy as we dive right in.
Before we get to our special guest, last week was the 7th anniversary of our podcast. What is happening and what is time?
I don't know.
Yeah, our new podcast that we started with Whale Tales. Yep, it's like going into grade 2.
Oh, I hate it.
No,
Don't say it like that.
I don't like that at all. Which, like, this is the thing about having two small children against which you can measure time. I think because we started the podcast either just before, well, I was either pregnant or had a newborn. I think I had, because James is 7.5. So yeah.
Yeah, so you had a baby.
Those things all, like, nothing makes sense.
No.
For like the first 2 years of being a new parent. And so it's just, to me, it feels simultaneously like we've been doing the podcast since well before I had children, but also for only like a year and a half.
Yes. Well, there's also COVID math in there, which is always just, it's a Jeremy Bear me is what that is.
It's exactly the right way
finally
to describe
figured
it.
out 6 years later how to describe COVID math.
Yeah. But whether it has been just one episode for you, which, hello, welcome listeners, or you've been with us at any point along the journey, even up to and including being here for all 7 insane years with us, which is crazy. We just really want to thank you. It's so, so, so incredible that there are, and it's crazy because, again, we have been doing this for 7 years and we see all of your wonderful comments on all of the various platforms and all of the emails that we get, and they never cease to make all of our hearts melt and all of us go, oh,
Yeah.
It still is like, oh my gosh, there's people who listen to this like every single time. So just thank you from the bottom of all of our hearts for being here with us. You are the best, and we love doing this.
Yeah, we had a comment on episode 1 a few days ago, and I was like, what was episode 1? What did we talk about in that episode?
I couldn't tell you.
Oh my gosh, and I really truly did cry from that comment. So
it was
you know who you are as a listener, and it's just like, you are exactly why we started the podcast and continue to be doing it to this day.
Pretty much.
Yeah, I love you guys. Love cetaceans.
Feelings.
Love listeners. It's just the best.
Yay, feelings.
Okay, so today, Nicole and I, because Sarah was attacked by Microsoft Office and was unable to make the podcast. Sarah and astronauts, they're exactly the same.
So much in common.
It's a good Venn diagram.
Yeah. Nicole and I talked to an amazing guest, Regina, who, from the Whale and Dolphin Conversation, Whale and Dolphin Conservation. And
you know what? You didn't make that mistake while we were talking to her, so bravo to you.
That was before my life and my immune system blew up simultaneously. So that was when my brain used to work. Anyway, we talked to her, and it was great. It was 2 weeks ago. We talked about whales.
We're about to talk to her right now.
And whales. I need to edit this episode.
Well, yes. Oh, I'm so sad that I missed it. But yeah, I was in a race condition with my computer. Couldn't log out of one computer and log into the other computer. It was a whole thing. Okay, but I am excited to hear the conversation, and we'll introduce you to Regina. So Regina Asmutis-Silvia is Whale and Dolphin Conservation North America's Executive Director and Senior Biologist. She has undergraduate degrees in biology and chemistry and a graduate degree in biology. Her publication topics include studies on humpback whale distribution, accurate gear type characterization for entanglement mitigation, on-demand fishing technologies, large whale vessel strikes, and necessary approaches to protect endangered species. Ugh.
And so I think for our listeners, if you're someone who kind of like picks and chooses which episodes to listen to based on what we're talking about or our guests, not only are we talking about cetaceans and all of the like really incredible research that Regina has done and been a part of and supporting through the Whale and Dolphin Conservation Society. There's not society. I just always want to add it at the end.
Me too. Yeah.
But we also, the fishing gear work that she has done was so cool. So cool.
Yeah.
So just from like a tech, like a futuristic tech being good, which is always a like, really? Is that good at the end of it? It was just a really, really cool conversation.
Yeah. Amazing. I'm excited.
So let's get into it.
Woo.
Okay, now we're here with Regina, who is with the Whale Dolphin Conservation Society. Just here to talk all sorts of whale dolphin-y things, which is exactly what we're looking for in our lives. So,
Hooray!
Hi Regina, welcome. Thank you for being here.
Thank you for having me.
Do you want to just start with a quick intro to who you are and what you do at the WDC?
Sure. So Whale and Dolphin Conservation is a global family of offices. There's offices in the UK and in Germany and Australia. I'm the executive director of the North American office. We're a 501c3 here in the US, and our work is primarily focused on species that would find in the US and Canada, and with a focus on endangered species, including critically endangered North Atlantic right whales on the East Coast and endangered southern rodents on the West Coast. But if it's a marine mammal, we're probably involved somehow, and we have a stranding response group. We cover about 300 miles of coastline here in Massachusetts and respond to any marine mammal stranding, so seals, dolphins, whales, whatever's happening. So it's part of what we're doing here as well. And my background is actually in biology, and I became sort of the executive director by default. So know a little bit about running nonprofits, but my background and my heart really is in whale biology and whale conservation.
Yeah.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much for being here. And also, really importantly, thank you for all that you're doing. We haven't had anybody on the pod yet who has talked about, or at least in depth about, the North Atlantic right whales. So we'd love to hear more about them if you'd like to share. We've talked a little bit about the sort of like basic facts, and we always love to nerd out about them. But anything that you'd like to share with us, we, and I'm sure our listeners, would be very happy to receive that audibly.
Yeah, I've spent probably the bulk of my career, one way or the other, working on North Atlantic right whales, from research when I was in graduate school to conservation issues throughout most of the work that we do here at WDCNA, and get to right now where we get to help Woods Hole Oceanographic Institution with a health assessment project in Cape Cod Bay on right whales. So like they are a daily part of my life.
Wow.
There are fewer than 400 of them left in the world. So they're a separate species here in the North Atlantic. And, that was from a population that was probably over 10 or 20,000 at one point before whaling. There's lots of questions, I guess, about why they're called right whales. And there's a few different theories, but probably the most prevalent one is that they were the quote unquote right whale to hunt. So they were slow, they were easy to catch. They should be really big and fat and float really easily. So if they're healthy, then they floated when they were dead, so they were easier to capture for shore whaling. They were close to the shore, so they were hunted since the 11th century. So they used to be on both sides of the Atlantic, and then they were hunted by Basque whalers originally over in Europe. And as the populations diminished, which is true for most large whale populations, that were impacted by whaling. These animals are long lived; they're slow to reproduce. And so whaling very quickly took a toll. And then there was a remnant population left here on the western North Atlantic. So their range right now basically is only from Florida to Canada, to Atlantic Canada. So that's pretty much the only place that you can find them. They were slowly starting to show signs of recovery, and there was some hope. I would say that, probably, in the 90s, early 2000s, theoretically about 500, and it looked like they were slowly starting to increase. And then 2017 hit, and we knew that 17 died in that 1 year. But we also know from research that probably only a third of the carcasses are found.
Yeah.
So when animals die at sea, they're obviously not located. So there's a lot of the animals that were dying and missing. They are probably one of the most well-studied large whales on the planet. There's so much effort going into them, and there's an entire catalog that's curated by the New England Aquarium, and everyone provides their data to them. So it's kind of like this giant yearbook of right whales. And so the way that you can identify them individually are patterns on their head. They have these weird little calluses called callosities on their head, sort of like if you play guitar or rake a lot, you get calluses there. But the cool part about their calluses is that they are actually like black calloused hardened tissue, but they look white.
Oh.
Because they have these little cyanids, these little crustaceans that live there. And so they move around a little bit, but the pattern's generally the same. And so you can take photographs of their heads and identify who they are. And because there's so much effort looking at right whales from aerial surveys and boat-based surveys, you can actually tell if you're missing animals after some point of time. So, and the way I think about it is if you have class pictures at school and every year you took a picture of that class and you saw the same student in it every year, then obviously you know the student's still going to that school. And if they miss a picture in 4th grade, but they show up back in 5th grade, you still know that they're there. But if they're missing in 4th grade, 5th grade, 6th grade, then you start to think, well, maybe they don't go to that school anymore. That's kind of how some of these population assessments are done with right whales. So if you don't see them one year, but then they show up the next year, they're still counted alive in the catalog after 5 years of missing, because there's such an intense effort to try and photograph them. Then there's an assumption that they're dead. A few whales do get resurrected. They'll show up again, but most of the time after that 5-year period, they're gone. So that's how they can do these population assessments and know that how many are actually left. Their biggest threats are accidental entanglements and fishing gear. So they'll just kind of bump into the gear and panic and then roll into it. And that can actually kind of form a tourniquet, and it can cut into their flesh and their blood supply. And or if they get mouth entanglements, it will actually prevent them from feeding. And on average, it takes about 6 months for them to either succumb to the infection or starve from the entanglements. It's really terrible. And I preface that by saying there is absolutely no fisherman on the entire planet that's trying to do this. They don't want to lose their gear. Absolutely. They don't harm anything, but the vertical rope that they bump into, and primarily what we call fixed gear fisheries like lobster and crab, things like that, are gill nets are a risk to them. And vessel strikes are another big risk. And so they tend to be really slow moving. Oftentimes, especially moms and calves, swim just below the surface. They're hard to see. So they're within the path of a vessel, but oftentimes you can't really see them easily if you're operating a vessel. So vessel strikes are another issue. So those are really their two biggest threats. And they started to shift habitats around 2010, go to new places to look for food. And those places didn't necessarily have the regulations to reduce vessel strikes and entanglements in them. And so it increased their risk. And then we started to see a really precipitous decline in the population at that point. So they went from about 500 to, under 350. Yeah. But right now, I think the latest estimate is about 384. There's a tiny bit of an increase, and had the best calving year in over a decade this year with 23 new calves born. So seeing some signs of hope, and I got to see a couple of the calves this year. So I was very happy about that. So they're, I guess, the most bittersweet whale, because they kind of got this little roller coaster. There's still a lot of work to do, but I do think that if we could figure out how to stop entangling them and hitting them by mistake, they would be able to recover.
Yeah. I know that there's a lot of research and development about that stuff with fisheries and fancy long line stuff, or traps that didn't have lines but popped up. Was that a thing I imagined, or is that?
Yep, that's real. Actually, that's where I was all day, is at a meeting about that. So we call it on-demand fishing gear. And so we're working with NOAA and some of our partners, and working with members of the commercial fishing community here that are trialing the gear. And it's really cool because it's an acoustic-based system that the fishermen will literally call the gear, because there's an app for everything now.
Of course. Yeah.
There's an app for fishing, so that you can go out and use the app and actually use a acoustic signal, and it will call the gear from the bottom.
Oh.
And there's two ways to do it. It will either the rope is coiled inside of a cage with a float on it, and so when the acoustic signal calls down, it releases the cover with the float, and it brings the rope to the surface, and then you can retrieve the gear the way you would
Normally.
traditionally.
Yeah.
Or there's an airbag system. And so the other way is that the app will actually trigger an air canister, a little dive canister, and it inflates an airbag, and then it brings the trap up to the surface that way. And that trap is attached to all traps that they fish. So there are some places where we know that they're high use, like Cape Cod Bay, where I live. In spring and winter time here, we know right whales are coming in, so it's closed to fishing with vertical line to protect the right whales. And there's a place just in southern Massachusetts, and there's one east. So Massachusetts has a lot of right whale area habitat. So those areas are seasonally restricted, so they don't let you fish with vertical line in it because it's such a risk to the whales. But you can fish with it. So you can go out there, you can fish, everything's on the bottom, and then the only time it comes to the surface is when you're out there and you call it up to the surface. And so it's been a really cool project. We started in 2019 with a couple of fishermen who wanted to prove to us that it didn't work. And now last year on the permit, we had 87 vessels.
Nice.
Wow.
And the permit covers from Maine through the mid-Atlantic, and just seeing a lot of progress. And I think that some of the coolest part is that the progress and the advancement in this gear and why it's progressing so much is because of the innovations that the fishermen have brought to the table. So they've really been amazing in helping to improve the gear and advance it. And we've got about 90% success rate now with the gear. And I think it has a lot of promise, and it isn't something that has to be used by everybody everywhere. It's really high risk areas. It's really a win-win so that people can fish and continue to, have their livelihoods. It's an important part of the economy, but it's not impacting the whales while they're there. So it's a pretty cool, I think, solution to a very big problem.
Yeah. Wow. No, that's really cool. And just like, how deep are those? How deep can they go?
That was my question.
So we've had, I think, 600 meters might be some of the deepest.
Oh, wow. Whoa.
But yeah, what the cool part of this technology is that it's been used for a really long time by oceanographic researchers.
Oh, yeah.
So that they've put buoys down, they've gone into really deep areas, and they've done this. So the acoustic part, is something that's been used in other places for research. It's just kind of putting it together for the fishing community and sort of adjusting it for that. So, I think the potential is pretty limitless. Different, and I think it's really important to understand that different guys configure their gear differently. They fish differently. Currents are different. Bottoms are different.
Yeah.
So allowing them to be able to kind of, tweak the product the way that it works for them has been really has been what's advancing this and making it possible to use commercially.
Yeah, that's really cool.
Well, excited to hear more about that as it becomes more sort of like market level available. That's really cool.
Yeah, right now in the U.S., and they are using it in Canada and the Gulf of St. Lawrence. It's also where right whale that's increasingly becoming an important right whale habitat in the summer. So the Canadian Wildlife Federation is working with fishermen up there, and there's in the snow crab fishery. And there's the Dungeness crab fishery off of California has been using it because of endangered humpbacks there. So I think, between the different areas that have been using it, between Canada and different parts of the U.S. that have been using it, there's been over 1 million pounds of lobster and crab that have been harvested.
Wow.
Here. So it's really cool to think that the traceability to market for somebody to say like, I bought this, or I bought this on demand product is that's being worked on. That hasn't quite.
Yeah.
I'm not a market person, so I
of course,
know all of how that works. But there are organizations that are working on trying to figure out what that traceability and that marketability is, so that people could actually choose a product and say, "Hey, I'm intentionally buying something that I think is a safer product."
Yeah, that's awesome. Nice, go science.
Yeah.
Yes. Yeah, and it is cool because it's such a cool STEM. Like we actually built a STEM curriculum around on demand because
wow.
it's such a cool concept. And so we have this high school curriculum unit that we can go in and talk to the kids about conservation, talk about wildlife conflicts, lobster fishing, the importance of lobster to the New England economy, but also say like, here's a solution. And it's like, it involves mechanical engineering because traps are built. It involves acoustic engineering. So it's a cool way to get kids interested in science and solutions at the same time. So it's
It's awesome.
I love my on-demand project.
Yeah, no, that sounds awesome. And like a super fun thing to show kids because it's got a Jack in the Box kind of thing.
Yeah.
So something exciting happens when you get to show it to them. So yeah. That sounds cool. I would like to go to a demonstration as well. Can you tell us, you mentioned earlier that you did some research on North Atlantic right whales. Can you tell us a little bit about that and what kind of other research is? Obviously there's like the day-to-day tracking and making sure that they're doing okay as well as they can and stuff, but what other research are you working on that is being happening? Just like more of the other kind of research that's happening on right whales over there.
There's so much, and it's really there's so many cool projects, and I think that one of the really cool things is there's a lot of focus on North Atlantic right whales, obviously, because they're critically endangered, but the ideas and the innovations then sort of spill over into other species and other ways of helping other animals as well. So we work in support with a project that's being run by the Woods Hole Oceanographic Institution, where they're doing a drone analysis, basically. So it's completely non-invasive. They fly a drone over the whales and they can actually use photogrammetry to measure. So they can tell how long they're getting, how fat they are, some, estimates of whether or not they're pregnant for females and do some estimation. So it's basically like a health assessment. And some of what's come out of that has been a little concerning, to be honest, because they're just not growing the way that they should. So they're not as fat as they should be, which is a concern. If you think of women who run marathons and they lose a lot of their body fat, they actually could stop ovulating. And so because your body fat helps to trigger the hormones that you need to reproduce. So if right whale females aren't getting fat enough, then they're not going to be able to have kids. And we are seeing a sort of expansion in their calving rate. So they, humpbacks here, for instance, calve every 2 to 3 years, typically. Right whales every 4 to 10 years.
Oh, wow.
And so that's a really long time between kids. And they're generally not even having their first kid till they're 10 years old or older. So that's the earliest it seems to be. So like that's one thing that you can look at that way. There's also another project that's Woods Hole and the New England Aquarium are working on collecting breast samples. So they'll fly a drone as the whale exhales and they can look at the biome of the whale and they can, and like what's good bacteria, what's bad bacteria, like how are they doing health-wise. So those are some things that are happening right now. There's a lot of photo ID work.
Yep.
We take pictures. There's aerial surveys the Center for Coastal Studies is doing to take pictures. Again, that's sort of that catalog, that yearbook that gets contributed to so that we know who's around and who they are and who's having kids and who's not. And there's some work being done on behavioral stuff to look at in short-term behaviors with suction cup tags to try and figure out like how deep are they diving, where are they going. The Center for Coastal Studies is doing some habitat work to look at what they're eating. So they'll go kind of do BCTD samplings and they'll also do plankton sampling to see the kinds of plankton that they're eating because they their primary food was a kind of plankton called Calanus marticus, and that is very temperature sensitive. And in the Gulf of Maine warms faster than most of the rest of the ocean in the world. That becomes a concern if they're not getting as nutrient rich of a food. So if they're not eating Calanus and they're eating Streptoproteus or something else, is that the difference between eating something like filet mignon and hamburger? So are they getting fat enough? Are they getting enough nutrition from whatever it is that they're eating where they are? So looking at some of the plankton samples, and there's a lot of work being done right now. Dr. Mark Baumgartner has what's called an ocean glider from the Woods Hole Oceanographic Institution, and NOAA has an entire acoustic array pretty much up and down the coast. Right whales have this unique upcall. So they make lots of different, I mean, we name them. We obviously the whales don't know that we call their calls different things, but like they have groans and moans and all kinds of things, that different sounds that they make. But they do this contact call that's called an upcall that seems very unique to right whales. So as they're going around and just kind of like checking to see if anybody else is in the area, they do this little upcall thing. So the recorders will filter for that upcall, and then because that's unique to right whales, it's a way to be able to detect if right whales are in the area within, a distance of that passive acoustic monitoring buoy. So there's a lot of acoustic monitoring that's going up and down the East Coast to look at the seasonality of when they're there. And what's really fascinating with that is that the more you look, the more you find them.
Yeah.
So they are, the idea that they're not, in a particular area at a particular time of year is, we're starting to figure out that that's not true, that they are far more transient and using a lot more of the habitats along the East Coast year round than had been previously thought. So the acoustic monitoring has been really helpful. So those are some of the cool things that I think that, right whales are bringing to the table for other species as well.
Yeah. So are they doing north, go up to feed in the summer, go down to have calves? Is that their...
So some segment of the population, not all of them, will go down to the southeast. So from like the Carolinas down to Florida, that is their calving area in the winter. And so the calving season is mid-November to, technically mid-April, but most of them by usually March, if you know that they've had kids or not. So they'll head down, the pregnant females, and then sometimes juveniles, and even a couple males might go down there. But the kids are generally born, and I say generally because I think one of the things I like about whales in general is never say never.
Yep,
like,
absolutely.
There's no gospel to any of it. Someone will always surprise you. I remember so they're theoretically, most of the kids were born down there, but I think it was 2012. We got a fisherman. Like I'm in Plymouth on Cape Cod Bay in the harbor here, and we got a call from a fisherman saying that there's this weird pilot whale that just keeps hanging out in the harbor. And it's got this this big barnacle on its head. And it happened that just that fall, this was in January, he kept telling us this. And so just the fall before that, we had a short-fin pilot whale, which is a little bit north of their range. We wouldn't have expected to see it. And thinking like, okay, well, we do have pilot whales around here. So it's like, all right, we went to go check it out. And I got out there and I'm like, oh, that's a right whale. Oh, that's a right whale mother calf pair. And I remember calling NOAA saying, I have a mother calf pair. And because you call in sightings here, they track them all. And the person from NOAA called me back and was like, you said a mother calf pair. I was like, yep. Like, I'm looking at the calf right now. It's like, well, it's January. I'm like, yep. It's like, where are you? I'm like, I'm Cape Cod Bay. It's like, yep, it's a brand new calf with a little shoehorn face. And the calf was actually born up here. And so never say never. They do what they want, but most of them are born down south. And then the moms will bring the kids up here to Cape Cod Bay. And then from here, they will go to other places to feed. And then in the summer, now more regularly, we're seeing them go up into the Gulf of St. Lawrence to eat up there as well. So they're expanding their range a little bit, but they probably eat year round. And there are some data, at least from a few whales, that were one, unfortunately, who was entangled with a telemetry buoy on him. He was down in the southeast. He came back up to the Gulf of Maine, off the coast of Maine, and then went back down there within like a couple-week period. So there seemed to be moving around. There's some evidence of feeding off of Virginia in the past couple of years. So they are probably eating more often and in places that we had really considered previously. So it's cool because you just keep learning about them and don't really, when you think you know something, they prove you wrong.
Yeah, absolutely.
Always
Do we
fun.
know anything about their range before whaling? I guess it's hard if it was the 11th century. Don't really have a lot of records from back then. But were they coming up to the Gulf of St. Lawrence? Were they coming that north, or were they?
So there are some data that would indicate that was a historic part of their habitat and part of their range. And then there's also the weird little whales that from quote unquote our population that will show up off of France or off of the Azores. We had one this year. We had one show up off of Ireland, and then it was off of Boston not that long ago.
Wow, that's crazy.
Yeah. So, and their range obviously was in the eastern North Atlantic as well. Mm-hmm. But, that population was thought to be wiped out. But then every once in a while, someone will see one somewhere.
Yeah.
Like I said, Ireland or the Azores or off of France and be like, hey, that's a right whale. And
then what are you doing
down here? Yeah.
That's such a weird place to go, to the Azores from Boston. Like, that's crazy.
Great vacation.
Great vacation. Yeah, they're just checking it out. Yeah.
Do you ever get the mix-ups of bowheads and right whales?
We have had an occasional bowhead wander down here. And there was one that was the same bowhead whale that was a couple years in a row that came down and did hang out with right whales.
Oh, cool.
So it's not impossible. It's not typical. This is certainly south of their range. We've also had the occasional beluga that will come down here.
It's like the ones that go to Oregon every once in a while.
Yeah. We haven't had any narwhals yet. But we've had manatees come up here too. So.
Oh, wow. That's such a weird mix of things.
Yeah. So, and as we're seeing like water temperatures and food supplies change, it's like you just don't know. Like you don't doubt when somebody says that they saw something, you actually have to go check it out. You can't just assume that. Except for we did have somebody call in a stranding of a penguin this year, and I'm pretty sure it wasn't a penguin.
Yeah, yes, that's a pretty good guess.
For the most part, we have had manatees show up here, and we have had bowheads show up here. So don't know.
Wild. What else do you get? Do you get the killer whales come down? We know hardly anything about those guys, so it's so hard to tell.
So we have a solitary killer whale that mostly is seen in Nova Scotia.
Old Tom?
Yep. Yeah. But he does his little at least once a year he comes and just does his little trip to Cape Cod and comes back.
Yeah, with his dolphin friends.
Check it out.
Yep. So he's seen at least once a year in the southern Gulf of Maine. Oftentimes we don't know anything about him, and he is a solitary, and he's not, I wouldn't call him sociable. He's just a solitary animal. He's might socialize with the dolphins, but he doesn't really seem to care about people. He's most often, anecdotally, the reports often come from someone tuna fishing. Mm-hmm. So the assumption is that he's probably a fish eater, but nobody really knows. But we have had spotter pilots on occasion call in pods of orca. Mm-hmm. A little further off, off the Cape, but it could be 150 miles off the Cape.
Yeah.
The New England Aquarium is doing some aerial surveys south of the Cape, I think last summer, and had a pod of orcas. So we know there are orcas somewhere
around.
Yeah, but not the resident pods. And we have our humpbacks. Probably about 15% of our humpbacks have rake marks on them. Mm-hmm. So we know that there are orca predations, but we also don't know if they're here or if they're happening in the Caribbean where there are more stable
other orcas,
of orca down there. So don't really know a lot about the orca here.
Yeah, such a strange, but they're so far off the coast. It's so hard to tell, and there's just so much coast that they could be on. So and then you get dolphins, Atlantic whitesides, and Atlantic bottlenose, and other ones.
So we've been having, it's been mostly what we have here coastally are Atlantic white-sided or common dolphins.
Okay.
And those are the two that we see most frequently.
Yeah.
We have been seeing bottlenose, and there's the tamanins that are the more coastal population that kind of might from Florida to New York. And then we have offshore bottlenose, the really big guys that will sometimes come in. I'm not sure anymore. Honestly, we don't see them often. And when we get a stranding, it's usually the offshore ones, that the really larger ones. But I'm not convinced all the time that the sightings of what are being reported or of bottlenose aren't the tamanins that are starting to increase their range a bit here, because we're seeing a lot of the menhaden, which is more of a mid-Atlantic species. We're seeing that show up more coastally here, and as things get warmer, and so I wouldn't be surprised.
Right.
Occasionally white-beaked, but they not as often anymore because they tend to be colder water, but can periodically see them. Grampus sometimes, pilot whales. So we've got probably, I would say, an average of about 20 different marine mammal species that are seen off the coast here.
Nice.
So yeah, it's a kind of a cool place to harbor porpoise pretty regularly.
Yeah, bowids and manatees. Should be on a poster or something.
Yes.
With rainbows and shooting stars.
Yeah, exactly.
One thing we always love to ask our guests, Regina, is sort of like what inspired you to get into this line of work, maybe what you've seen change over time, any suggestions you have for listeners who are interested in pursuing marine biology, whether it's, they're younger and just sort of getting started in their academic journey, or we had an incredible interview with someone who just, I can't remember, but like later in life, I can't remember exactly what her age was just like, you know what, no, this is what I'm going to do now. And it's always really inspiring for our listeners to hear sort of like, how did you personally get where you are?
I would absolutely encourage people to do internships, and preferably, I know the marine mammal field needs to do a lot better at this, but try and find a paid internship.
Yeah.
Those are harder to find, but I would absolutely try and find one. And I say that as I started as an intern. My internship wasn't paid, but I did get college credit for it. It was a college course. I started my undergraduate thinking that it was more on a pre-med track. And when I was an undergrad, I worked at a couple of different hospitals. I just hated it. So it was just like, I liked the idea of medicine. I liked the sort of, medical parts and biology that went with that, and, even a little bit of the chemistry that went with it. But the actual application of it, I was just like, this is not my life. And I can't imagine having, put my head down and put that much work and then try to get into medical school or something and then find out that I hated it. So I think, working at the hospitals was really important for me to understand that this wasn't something that I was going to want to pursue. And then I took this marine mammal intern course. I fell in love. I was just like, oh my God, like I just like found home, and that was it. And so, from there, it literally changed my life. It's like, this is what I want to do. And so this is where I want to go. And it changed classes. It changed what I wanted to do for jobs. And I think what's changed in the field, which is hopeful and helpful, was when I started, there weren't a lot of jobs, and it was a lot of, a very passionate hobby for people because there wasn't a lot of work. And I did a lot of bartending, did a lot of, whatever you could to support your habit. I think it's a little bit, I whale watched. I worked as a naturalist. Like, you just piece things together to try and stay involved. I think there are more opportunities now, which is great. But I would say to anybody, whether it's, if this is what you think you want to do, then try it. And it's okay not to like it. Like, it's absolutely okay. But I would also say that you don't have to be a marine biologist to get involved in the field. Like, there are so many jobs, and there are so many ways that if you love marine science, or you love marine mammals, or you love the ocean, we have the most incredible comms people here.
Yeah.
And so like their passion is, social media or writing, but it is as important in getting messages out and talking to the public as it is our stranding team who goes out and, responds to strandings, or, our field crew who goes out on the right whale cruises, or anything else. It's our education team. We have a life-size inflatable right whale we take into classrooms, and kids can go inside of it and learn about whales that way. And it's really one of the cool things about that we find from we have an internship, and we try and give the interns exposure to everything. So they get exposure to education, they get some of the stranding work that they get exposure to, they learn policy. So we try and just kind of give them a little bit of taste of stuff and, some of the comms things. And one of the really cool things is how much we often find when they leave that they really all of a sudden loved education, that they really found this pathway of saying like, this is the part that really resonated with me, and they've kind of changed their next steps in doing it. And I think it's really important to try those things, but I also think it's important to remember that there's a billion ways to get involved. We have something that is definitely not my passion, but it's a part of my job. I understand, but it's not my passion. But thankfully, it's somebody's in my office is budgets and going through.
Yeah.
And if you like math and you like budgets and you're into finance, doesn't mean that you can't help whales. We have an incredible grant manager. Yeah. And she just loves, she tracks all of our grants and our spending and helps us find, and that's her thing and she loves it, but she also is contributing. So I would also tell people, don't get discouraged if you don't think that science is your passion. Podcasting, comms and stuff, there are so many ways that you can make a difference and be involved in the field without having to be a field resourcer.
Yeah, that's really amazing. I think that's something we haven't really talked about when we talk to people about their journeys, because so many of them, the people we talk to, have ended up being researchers or academic type pathways. But yeah, there's so many places on all the coasts and all over the place that have those kinds of jobs, and you don't have to be able to pass calculus to do a lot of them.
Exactly.
Definitely the budget one.
But, like me.
Yeah, but you can do a lot of places and you still get to be around these animals. You get to learn specific, unique things about them, and you get to help them, and which is, I think, when it comes down to it, what most of us are trying to do. So yeah, be a whale nerd, but also do the taxes of the place. I don't know.
Yeah, well, seriously, it's just whatever it is that's your passion or your, wherever you find that's what you're drawn to as a career, I promise you there's something in the whale world that needs you.
Absolutely.
Somewhere.
I think that's a lot of it, of you don't have to be boots on the ground boat, elbow deep in a necropsy kind of person to be a marine mammal career person. The job, that sentence didn't make any sense, but you got it.
We got it.
Yeah. That's awesome. Is there anything else that we haven't asked you before we move on to our segments that you wanted to talk about?
The only thing that I don't think we talked about that I think is my favorite thing to talk about is the role that marine mammals play in the ecosystem.
Oh yeah, let's do it.
I think it's really cool. You can love whales and you can want to protect them because they're cool animals, but you don't even have to love whales to want to protect them and know that you need them. Yeah. And so there's just more and more research coming out talking about the ecosystem role that whales play, both alive and dead, which I think is one of the coolest things that to me and it's all about whale poop, and that's really cool. And so and bright whale poop and blue whale poop, because they eat copepods or they eat krill, things that are hard, their poop floats. But humpback poop is super liquid and dissipates really quickly, but it all plays a sort of role of plant food. And so how much it spreads and how long it takes, it's is it slow growing plant food? Is it fast plant food? But it's full of phosphorus and nitrogen and iron that feeds phytoplankton. And so phytoplankton gives you half the oxygen that you breathe. It's the base for the food chain. In the marine food web, it sequesters huge amounts of carbon. So it's helping with climate issues. And so phytoplankton is like this very integral part of life on this planet. And it's really cool to me to think that, we all need phytoplankton to survive, but phytoplankton needs whales to survive. And so they literally, bathroom breaks are all at the surface. They're not pooping under pressure. So they're literally these ocean farmers, these ocean gardeners that come up and help sustain our planet. So I just think for me, it's really cool to think that, I started out just fascinated by whales and wanting to learn about them, and their behaviors and who they were and telling them apart and all that was kind of cool. But I think now I look at it thinking, damn, this is important. These animals play a really important part in my life and my kids' life and, my family's life. And so it's not just a luxury to go out there and get to see them. It's a responsibility to go out there and help to protect them.
Oh, that's such a great way of phrasing that. Thank you.
Yeah. Oh, so good. There's a reason we sing Circle of Life on this podcast so many times. Before we continue with the rest of the episode, we want to take a moment to tell you about how you can support our podcast and everything we do at Whale Tales.
You can join us on Patreon at patreon.com/whaletales. You can join for $1 a month at the porpoise level, $5 a month at the dolphin level, or $10 a month at the whale level.
And each level comes with a variety of different perks, like polls, thank you postcards, that we sometimes all see each other at the same time and place and sign, and sometimes we kind of send them through various mail so that we can send them before they go in the mail to you. Access to extended interviews, extra stories, producing your own fun flipper fact segment of the pod, which we will have one of those coming up next month, and maybe more depending on patrons. And then we also have extra podcasts. So our dolphin and whale level patrons get access every other month to Journal Club on Patreon, where we read a scientific article and then talk about it and the science behind it and our thoughts and feelings. And then our whale level patrons get access to my favorite thing in the world, which is Whale Tales Watches, where we watch a thing, sometimes read a thing, but usually watch a thing that in some vague or sometimes specific way is associated with cetaceans of some kind, and then we tear it apart. And that's what we're doing for this month's Whale Tales Watch. We haven't actually recorded that yet, but we have all watched the thing, and it's every scientist's worst nightmare, Finding Dory. We're finally doing it.
Yep.
Yay.
It's going to be a time. Thank you so much to all of our patrons. You are amazing. Thank you so much for your support and for supporting us over... I don't think we've had a patron the whole time we've had a podcast, but you've been a huge part of why we've been able to keep doing this podcast and been so excited to keep doing this podcast for 7 years. So thank you.
You're the best. Yeah. And of course, if you aren't able to support us on Patreon, there are still a ton of things that you can do to help us out. One of the things that we love most of all in the whole wide world is for you to leave a rating and review on your podcast platform of choice, principally Apple Podcasts or Spotify, where we can read your comments. They are the greatest, and they also help other people find us. And to help even more people find us, you can just tell everyone in your lives. I mean, mostly your cetacean and science and podcast loving friends, but really everyone. Yeah. Recently, it's been very fun for me. I started a new job about 1.5 years ago, and I did tell people when I first started about the podcast, and a few of them, hello, you are all wonderful, started listening. And now it's become this thing that the people at work who know about the podcast are telling other people at work about the podcast. And it's so heartwarming and wonderful. And so all of you who are listening, who I work with, I love you so much. And thanks for making me feel so welcome here. And I'm so happy and everything is great.
She will not be this excited during the Finding Dory episode.
Nope. No, I won't.
No. You can also always follow us on social media. We're at whaletales_org, and you can just send us your feedback on social media or email or however you would like, so that we can keep making the podcast even better. Or if you've got guest ideas or topic suggestions or ideas, love to hear it.
Okay, let's move on to Fun Flipper Fact. It's time for Fun Flipper Fact. We want to hear your Fun Flipper Fact today from Regina.
That was hard. I was trying to think of what the like there's lots of fun facts. And so I was trying to think of like, I'll give you two because I
I'd love it.
decide. One of my favorite fun facts is that whales don't have gallbladders. I don't know why I'm fascinated with that, but
I don't think I knew that.
I didn't know that either.
So it's a weird. So like that's a really good mean thing to do to the person who's doing their first necropsy is tell them to find gallbladder because they can't.
That's awesome.
Amazing.
The other fun fact is that right whales have switched kids. Yeah, so some of the genetic research has shown that a right whale mom might end up with a different kid.
Oh, wow.
So so that's kind of weird and fun to me too.
Trade with another mom.
Yeah.
Be like,
It's like,
this energy, a little bit more your energy.
Yeah, exactly.
Like soap opera hospital mix-ups, kind of.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So, and it's not clear. Like so the genetic stuff is obviously been done in hindsight, so you know that they switch kids. But we were out a couple weeks ago and had 2 mom calf pairs, and the moms were both off, and the kids were hanging out together, and which is unusual because usually like you don't have the kids like kind of playing, and so it was like, oh, I wonder if they're going to go back to the right mom.
That's so strange.
Does it seem like it can happen at like any time, or is it like pretty like, okay, we've made a switch now, I'm mom for you now?
Yeah, I don't know. Like that's and it's obviously when they're doing the genetic sampling, they're biopsying, it's at one moment in time.
Yeah.
Where you know that the photographs are matching seasonally with that particular kid, and then the biopsy is like, okay, so we're not seeing the photographs changing frequently with it. So it's not clear if it happens like right when they're born and it is like the hospital mix up, or if it's later. But I was thinking about it because when we were out a couple weeks ago and saw these 2 kids playing, it's like, did they go back to the right mom?
That's, do we know, is it always moms who are nursing, or do they do the, whatchamacallit, that belugas do, the nursing? Anti-nursing, whatever it is.
Yeah, so the only time that moms and cows stay together is when they're maternally dependent, when they're nursing, and so then when they separate, they're just like done.
Yeah.
That's very fun. Thank you for sharing.
That was a good one. Yeah, thank you. Okay, so the next segment we have is our whale tale. Of course, when we ask you to share a cetacean encounter that you've had that's memorable, it can be from any time or place in your experience. So we'd love to hear it.
That one's tough too. I think of a couple. I mean, one was a couple years ago with a mother calf right whale pair, and the calf came over and checked the boat, and the mom allowed the kid to come over. Wow. And so the kid stayed with the boat for a little while and just kind of hung out with us, and the mom just hung back and allowed it. And sometimes mothers will get in between like the boat and sort of protective, but I don't know. It was a weird feeling of privilege and trust to think that this mom was okay allowing her kid to come check us out, which was really cool. And just the curiosity and the level of awareness, you know, and this kid like kind of looking at you and checking out things that going around was amazing. The other one's more of a human issue than it is a one, but I was out on a trip a very long time ago, and we went out like 100 miles offshore. It was a birding trip, and I just went to see if they were going to find any whales like along the way. I was just going up for the ride. It was a pelagic birding trip, and we came across a blue whale. Ugh. And it was like, oh my God, this is amazing. And so the captain was like, you have to tell people what they're seeing, and so we don't normally get a lot of blue whales in the Gulf of Maine, so we actually had a woman come in the whalehouse and complain to us saying that she was out there to see birds, not whales.
Oh gosh.
like on your life list of birds, chances of you ever seeing a blue whale ever.
Isn't it like 1% of the entire world's population will see a blue whale in their life?
Yeah. It's like, so and that still resonates with me all these years later.
Yeah, no, that would with me as well. That's wow. Just, I can't even imagine, like, we haven't seen one yet, but just the size, like, would take your breath away? Like, that, it's crazy to me. Wow. but we are giant nerds, so
True.
whale
The
nerds.
first blue whale I ever saw was up in the Gulf of St. Lawrence, and I'm embarrassed to say that my job was to do photo ID. And we were on Zodiacs, and this blue whale, this wall of a whale just came by. And I'm still horrified that I did this, but like, I was so blown away. I never picked the camera up.
That's probably me too.
So relatable.
Did not take one picture of that whale, took a dive, and we did not see it again.
Oh no. But it will always live in your brain.
It's
your
not the
memory, in your
pattern
heart.
enough for me to tell who it was. That was painful, but it was amazing. But
Yeah. Oh yeah, absolutely. Ugh, incredible. Okay, so we do one last segment, which is a call to action. We just like to end our podcast with something that our listeners can do, whether they are living in marine communities or not, something to help cetaceans and marine life and the environment, if you have any suggestions.
The timing is impeccable. I have a huge suggestion. We actually tomorrow are launching a campaign with the Endangered Species Coalition, because you don't have to be a U.S. resident to be able to comment on this, or to be able to comment on our joint petition. You just have to be somebody that cares about whales. But NOAA is considering removing the regulation that would require seasonal slowdowns in right whale habitat. We know that restriction has reduced vessel strikes by upward toward 90%. And to remove that regulation and put those animals at risk, especially moms and calves who spend so much time, at or near the surface, and losing, nothing personal to any of the guys out there, but losing a female in an endangered species is losing all the potential for her kids too. So the vulnerability of particularly the reproductive females is massively disturbing. And so we are launching a campaign, and we're asking everybody to sign these comments and to write in and say that that regulation needs to stay in place. It's been in place since 2008. It hasn't stopped shipping. And the World Shipping Council actually was saying that they don't have a problem with the regulation. It hasn't prevented anybody's ability to use the ocean, but it has done a phenomenal job in protecting right whales. And so we would love for people to weigh in and tell NOAA that regulation is super, super important and needs to stay in place.
Okay, great. That is an unfortunate timing. Unfortunately, that we have to have this conversation, but good that it worked out for us now.
Do you know when the comment period closes?
I think it's June 3rd.
Oh, okay.
So
there's a little bit of time to do that, and we'll have the campaign live on our website, and the Endangered Species Coalition will have it on their website too, starting tomorrow.
Okay, and we'll put it in the show notes.
Thank you. I appreciate that.
Yeah, absolutely. Okay, I think that is the end of our segments. Is there anything else you'd like to add just about whales? And I can't get over the bowhead manatee thing. That's going to stick with me for a long time. So that's where I'm at.
No, I would just say thank you for all the love that you're giving right whales too. They need all the help they can get. So any attention they get is very much appreciated.
Yeah, we love learning about all sorts of cetaceans, but it's those ones. It's such an interesting thing to not know a lot about them just because of the way that where we live works. So, but it's cool to learn.
Thank you very much.
Thank you so much.
And that, folks, is the end of this episode. We would love to hear your thoughts always on this or any episode, so please visit our website, whale-tales.org, to find links to all of the social media handles that we care to be part of so that you can drop us a line.
You can also head to the website to subscribe to our podcast, learn about supporting us and becoming a patron, and check out over 1,600 whale, dolphin, and porpoise stories.
That's whale-tales.org. Tales like the stories, not tales like the animal.
You can find the Whale Dolphin Conservation North America at Instagram at whales_org, Facebook at whales and dolphin, whale singular, and dolphin conservation North America, TikTok at whales_org, and on LinkedIn for all of your business needs at Whale and Dolphin Conservation North America. And also Regina is on that LinkedIn. And so are we. So if you're feeling businessy and want to check us out.
Yes, have a professional parasocial relationship
exactly.
with us.
Why is it that every time I hear the word businessy, which is in no way professional, I think of Business Time from Flight of the Conchords.
Oh no, I think of Business
I was
Cat.
thinking...
Oh
from
no,
the
I
Lego
definitely
movie.
think of Lego Movie Business Cat, which is very much me in cartoon form. But no, this is the way that you said businessy. I flashed back to Business Time, which I haven't thought about it.
That's why they call them business socks.
Yeah.
Yep.
Amazing. Also, if you've seen a cetacean, we would always love to add your story to our library. You can click the share link on our website, you can contact us on social media, or you can send us a voice memo and maybe even get featured on the podcast in the future and tell us all about your incredible cetacean encounter.
Finally, we want to acknowledge that we recorded today's episode on the unceded territories of the Coast Salish peoples and the Musqueam, Squamish, Tsleil-Waututh, Sianu, and Sauk nations. Whale and Dolphin Conservation North America would like to acknowledge the Indigenous peoples and tribal nations, Wampanoag, who are the original stewards of the land and water where we work. We recognize that whales and dolphins are family to some Indigenous people and play a significant role in the health of our planet.
Thank you all so much for being here for this episode and for always. We hope you have a really great day. Yay!
Yay!